Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another illustrious episode of Space Oddities, where we're going to talk about everything from inner space to outer space and everything in between. All right, bringing to the stage Mr. Ben, my faithful sidekick and co-host. All
Hello,
right,
everyone.
so yeah, we're excited about tonight, and we got some great things to discuss about UAP and the media and how it either may affect it or may not, and just media in general, and just having to delve through all the wasteland of mainstream media at the moment. So, without further ado, I'll go ahead and give it over to Ben. He's actually the proprietor of tonight's episode. So, have at it, Mr. Ben.
Sure. First thing that I thought I would ask you, Gary, was to give us a rundown on the Nimitz Encounter. There's some new folks out there, and I've heard from some people that they don't know the story. And then in the context of that story, I know you've been on many different news channels and podcasts and all that. So maybe you could share with us your experiences with the media from an insider perspective.
I definitely could, and but we're going to pause for 1 second so that I can get the extreme link up. Due to the fact that we cannot go ahead of time in the extreme and uh, go, once we can only go live right at the time, so it's hard to here, via share. Just give me the link. They definitely make this too difficult on X. I definitely am not going to stop streaming on X, but copy link. I'll just do a standard post with it. All right. But so you can go into X itself and schedule an episode, but you can't do it through StreamYard. So I will have to keep posting the X link immediately after it.
Give Elon a call. Fix it.
Yeah, no, I tag him every time. All right, so that's done. All right, all obligations for getting the dissemination of the podcast out done. All right, so the difference is so you're talking about how the Nimitz Encounter kind of affected the media, and I'm kind of partial to this since I was a part of this event that happened when it happened, but how it affected the media I could have never imagined. It's one thing for it to come out later and say, yes, this was a thing, yada yada yada, but then they play X-Files themes and then they dismiss it after like a day. That's kind of like what we come to understand when it comes to any type of UFOs or anything that's fringe science or just not very well. They just didn't take it seriously, and then to have a well-respected media source like the New York Times come out with an article about a program studying UAP and then have the actual event that you were a part of be like basically the center stage of this article, along with the fact that there actually is a government program still studying this stuff. And the fact it was taken serious, it was different. It changed the dynamic of how we talk about UAPs in the media. We still, for the next couple of years, you would still have, the X-Files theme here and there, but all of a sudden, Congress is now taking it serious, and we're having hearings on UAPs. We've got more and more government officials coming out to talk about it freely. I mean, for a lot of us, it was just going to be a good story for drinking buddies for the rest of our lives. Now, we're vindicated. We're not crazy. We're not, and it's taken UAP research to the mainstream. it's still got a lot of stigma. It's still got a lot of stank on it. But it, with that being said, this is the first time in human history that we've taken the subject completely serious in the mainstream media. Uh, for the most part, I would say more so than not, as long as we're talking about flight risk safety, as long as we're talking about stuff that doesn't go into any of the paranormal subjects or the woo-hoo stuff. And there's people studying that stuff. I don't tend to get into it myself because I'm a skeptical believer of everything. If I've experienced it, I'll say yes. In my personal opinion, this is absolutely real because I experienced X, Y, and Z. If I haven't, then I'm just a skeptical believer until I have experienced it. And so I'm the kind of guy that's like, okay, you talk to blue aliens, all right, set up a meeting. you know, prove this to me. I'm down. Let's do it. What do I got to do? Run around in a leotard? Sure, whatever. Just let's meet these people. But if they can't prove it, or there's some status where if it's not the right moonlight and things aren't beaming properly, we're not going to be able to prove it. That's the stuff that's still not taken seriously. And I'm not making fun of that and them or any of that stuff. I'm just saying that until you can prove what you're saying to be true, it's not going to be taken serious. We established that UAPs as a subject, unknown aerial phenomenon, is a real thing. It should be studied, and that it is honestly, frankly, frightening. And so because of those things, that aspect of UAP research has become, much more taken seriously. So I'm very happy about all that. And I also you told me that you had a couple of people that you've invited to watch the show, and they don't really know the story of the Nimitz Encounter. And after the show, I'll go ahead and include a link to a very well-made documentary about the actual Nimitz Encounter by Dave Beatty. He spent endless hours, and it's an ongoing project that will be continuously, as more people come out about it, he's going to add more and more and more to it. So it's a growing, living documentary about the Nimitz Encounter. And I'm proud to have been a part of it. I'm proud to have called this man my friend. He's from the beginning, he's always been a solid person and one of the very few people in this industry and in this field of UAP research that always gave it to me straight, was always decent, and always just an upstanding guy. And that was Dave Beatty. So I'll go ahead and link that in the show notes. But a quick overview of basically what happened is in 2004, the USS Princeton, which was a part of the Nimitz battle group, which is why it's called the Nimitz Encounter, we encountered unknown aircraft, and they were flying very slow. They didn't have any type of identifying like characteristics or features, and they weren't broadcasting what's called identification friend or foe, or IFF, which is how we identify most aerial vehicles, at least within commercial airspaces or even within a naval training ground. Everything's going to have like some type of IFF, unless like maybe a balloon floated in and they didn't realize they were in restricted airspace, or maybe a glider might have gone into the wrong space and stuff, and then we just chase them out, and then no harm, no foul. But these objects were consistently doing only 100 knots at around 20,000 feet, and they're just going super slow. And it was just the most oddest thing. We thought it was all kinds of things before we tried to reset our systems. Sometimes if you just reset it, it'll start working right. Well, no, they were still there. We still were tracking them, and they would come and they would go. So we just didn't know really what to do with them. And then at a certain point, we did an F-18 interrogation of these objects, and that's kind of when all heck broke out. And they encountered objects that had no flight surfaces, no apparent engines, that had a universal heat signature on thermal imaging. They seem to are able to extract data from our systems to know things like where our cap position was, which is basically a predetermined spot for all of our friendly fighters to to go to reestablish comms and to re-engage. It's the point at which everybody comes and meets, and so that's a very, very top secret piece of information that is generally only given to the people that are involved, and so it was crazy that this object flew into that space, and it didn't have any propellers, no wings, no apparent engines, and they were tic tac shaped, which is why they call it the tic tac, and that's why you see all the tic tac in the UFO community, and and then of course we got FLIR imaging on this object, and when you look at the FLIR imaging, it's just a universal heat pattern. You're not seeing any real hot spots where there would be engines. You don't see any of the normal things that you would see with a normal commercial or military aircraft. And then there's the fact that literally they outflew our F-18 Super Hornets like we were kindergartners, in a running race against a car. It was ridiculous. So it was enough to shake our pilots, and it was enough to wake us up as, this is insane. And of course it got brushed under the carpet. We were told, don't talk about this, but we didn't have to sign an NDA about it. And then after the fact, 20 years later, we found out that our sonar technicians aboard the Princeton had to sign NDAs due to the fact that they actually got a passive sonar track, meaning that they heard what it sounds like, and that was a big deal. And then the Hawkeye pilots that run the Hawkeye aircraft, they had to sign NDAs. And then we found out that the data bricks that held all the information that was retrieved from the Hawkeyes that engaged this, those data bricks were taken, and of course on our ship, our sensor data from CEC and the rest of our sensor data from the Aegis weapon platform was all taken too. So it was a pretty wild event, and if you want to have a much more in-depth, in detail idea of exactly what happened, go to that link that I'll put it up after the show. But it's wild, and we don't have to. I know I have to keep saying it all over, for new people, but I'm happy to, because it's such an important thing for me, because we should all understand that there is a technology on this planet that we cannot define, that we cannot understand, that we cannot figure out. We've got plenty of ideas, theories, hypotheses, but there literally is nobody that knows exactly what these things are in the mainstream media, in modern academics, or in anything that's not a black project. I say I don't know anything about aliens, but I do know that there's a crazy advanced technology on our planet, and that's the absolute truth. That's why I've stuck with the nuts and bolts aspect and kind of let everybody else do, because the only thing I didn't get any special powers from being near the objects. I'm not particularly any more nuts than any other vet. That's say that with a grain of salt, it's a little Salt Bay, but it changed the way that mainstream media talked about UFOs and UAPs, and we're the better for it. So that was the long drawn out talk about for your answer. Did that answer your whole question, or was there any aspect of the question that I might have blown over because I ramble?
No. So you saw this because you were the radar operator. Is that correct?
That's incorrect.
Okay. So
no, I ran the radars, but I didn't run the actual. I wasn't a radar operator. The computer systems that ran all the radars and the consoles that the radar operators ran, that was all my systems. I was a technician. I was involved with making sure all of that stuff stayed working, that it was on running, and so that's what freed me up to be able to watch the guys that were running it.
So you actually
but that's also
the radar tracks then.
Yes, I got to see the radar tracks, and I was allowed into combat, which is the room that they all sit in. When you see the movies like Hunt for Red October, and you see all the guys hunched over consoles, and then things go beep 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 beep. Well, they don't actually make those noises anymore, but they see all these little digital tracks all over as you see a sweep go around these digital screens. But yeah, I luckily had access to that space and could watch it at any time I want, for the most part, as long as there wasn't any operational stuff going on, or if I just didn't get kicked out because it was just inconvenient for me to be there. But for the most part, I was up there so often, nobody would have even said anything about me being there. So and I frequented it a lot, especially during this week. A lot of times I'd try to, especially if it was twilight, or if I had, if my shifts and my responsibilities lined up with the fact that with twilight, that seemed to be the best time for me to try to catch one on the horizon through the big eyes. And as long as there was somebody I didn't particularly agree with or like on the bridge, that I could sneak out to the bridge wing to go watch it. So you kind of, some things had to line up for me to get out there to really take a look at it. But I'd go down to combat, get a bearing and an azimuth, where is this thing in the sky, so I know generally where to look when I get up there. And then I get up there and I look at the direction that I need to. And if you see a little light, it could be it. And then you just keep staring at that light, waiting for it to do something funny. And so if it never does anything funny, most likely it's just like a fishing ship on the horizon or something like that. But every once in a while, you see this thing just go bam, 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 just go crazy, and then just disappear. And then you're like, I saw it. And it's like, whoa. Yeah. So it's when I first saw it go, disappear out of my line of sight, it was actually one that just went from the right to the left, and it just moved so quick, and it's like it moved so fast that my perception took a second to realize it moved. Oh, it's gone. And then my memory, I remember, oh, it went this way. Because you tend to be able to remember things better the faster they move. You remember which way they go, but you didn't see it. Moved faster than my eyesight could really track it. Which is wild. Yeah, I don't know if I'm seeing anything other than the are you seeing the X comments or the Facebook comments at all?
I am only seeing, I think, YouTube comments.
Okay. I don't see any X comments, so that looks like, let's see, I got the chat loading up right now, and I'll move this over just so I can keep an eye on it. All right, it doesn't look like there's anything in the chat for them.
So maybe this is going back a long ways. When was the first interaction with the media regarding this? Was this after the New York Times article, or had you any contact before that?
I think that was the catalyst for it. And after that, Lauren Fenton and a couple of other people and were doing one of these conventions over in the Las Vegas area, and they had contacted, I guess Kevin Day was in with talks with them, and Kevin Day had reached out to me and had reached out to a couple other people, and we had all come together in support of David Fravor and his story, say, hey, look, dude's solid. He's not, there's nothing wrong with everything that he's saying. He's this actually happened. We were just kind of solidarity, and so the first public appearance I made was actually at that convention where we took the stage for the first time, literally. And wow, that was super overwhelming. I remember it was just crazy, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this again. So when we first made UAPX, I was like, all right, Kevin, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna be the face, and I'll run everything. It didn't really work out that well, but everybody has different ideas. Everybody goes in different directions. So it's that was the very first media I ever did.
Mhm.
And then after that, we did Unidentified, which was a History Channel TV show, and that's where that's the one Lou was a part of, and Chris Mellon came to my house and interviewed me, and I got to know Chris at that point, and that's where I started my relationship with Lou and Chris and all those guys. Very, very timid relationship. I mean, I can get a hold of them, but I don't for the most part. Other than, hey, hope everything's going good. I try to leave those guys alone just because till I got something for them to help their cause, or if they want to get involved with UAPX, they're more than happy to have them. But other than that, they're doing their thing. They're doing the government thing. We're doing the replicate data thing. We're trying to replicate all that military data that we can never get a hold of, so we don't have to wait for Chris and Lou's side of the house to actually get the government to give it to us.
Out of their cold, dead fingers, probably.
And that led to like a lot of TV shows. And then I think about the only TV show that I ever actually really kind of enjoyed being on was the Skinwalker Ranch episode that we had went on. Because, from my experience, all those guys, Caleb and Dragon and Eric and, and of course, Travis, I mean, they're all solid people, and they were all super accommodating. They were all great. There was nothing scripted. One time they asked me to go pick up a rocket that I'd already picked up because they didn't catch it on camera. They're like, "Oh, could you go pick that rocket up again?" I go, "Yeah, I could do that." I mean, there was nothing scripted about it. So the whole episode was literally our real reactions, our real conversations. The only thing that would have been, I guess, considered a little bit scripted is they did do kind of like an interview thing where they stuck us in a chair and asked us a bunch of questions about ourselves and stuff like that. But that's pretty common amongst most TV shows. That's that cutback where they say, they have all these questions that they asked you, and then something happens in the show, and then they cut back to something you said during that interview. It's all about magic of editing.
Mm-hmm.
So take it with a grain of salt when you watch these shows, because primarily these shows are all entertainment. That's the one takeaway that I got from doing the Tear in the Sky movie, all of the TV shows that I've been on. It's entertainment first, truth second. And they take that grain of truth and they stretch it out for entertainment value as far as they possibly can. And that's their job. Their job is to entertain you for that 25 to 45 minutes that you're going to be sitting in that chair after you're dead ass tired from getting home from a job that you may or may not love, but you're just trying to relax and watch something you're interested in. And if it just happens to be aliens or unknown objects and stuff like that, I've had your attention for many, many, many minutes. And understanding of the TV shows, they're all about entertainment first. So it's just the truth of it.
Well, and now with regular news and media, you could often say the exact same thing, that it's entertainment first, and entertainment, agendas, and maybe a little bit of truth sprinkled in.
Yeah, I'd say that's about the mix. And it's always a pleasure when you do something like Skinwalker Ranch, because it's like 90% truth and then 10% exaggerated socialness. Mm-hmm. Like, so they take the social aspect of it, the interpersonal relationships, and the emotional trauma that happen. Anything that happens, it doesn't matter how little it is. So I mean, that's where they get their entertainment. That's where they get their drama. And then, of course, yeah, you're absolutely right, Enzo. Enzo says it's a sad truth about being entertainment first. Some are better than others in how they handle it. You're absolutely true. And you know what? I'm the first person. If it's really, really bad, I'll never work with them again. If it's just normal, whatever, I don't care. I don't really I make like per diem a couple of $100, and I think the most I ever made on any of those shows is the UFO movie from I forgot who was the big director that did the UFO movie? It was just called UFO.
I'm not sure.
But either way, they paid me $800, and that's big money for an interview. But and then I was like super pissed about it because he's just like, at the end he's like, yeah, we got all this evidence, but there's nothing. It's prosaic. And I'm like, what? You're on crack, guy. Who paid you to make this?
Probably someone with 3 letters behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the nature of the game. Control the media. I stopped watching most media in about 2020 when all the propaganda about the shots and and just the back and forth from the both sides. And it's like, look, either take it or don't. I don't care. I mean, it's your life. Choose wisely. Either if you can always take it later. Ryan Enslinger. No, that's not who it was. And Bushibato. I hope you're still here. I didn't see you up there until right now. Welcome to the show. Yep, definitely a good late summer day. I'm down here in Florida, so it's just still summer. Hot, sticky, miserable to me. Some other people love that weather. If you're one of those people, well, you're not my people. I'm all about setting this thermostat at 70 degrees and calling it a day and not walking outside.
I'm up in Connecticut, so leaves are already changing up here. But...
Oh man, I really wanted to come up to Massachusetts in October. That's like my very favorite time to be up in Massachusetts because you got apple season. Oh, you got maple candy, and you've got the cider donuts, and if you're not from the Northeast and you don't know what I'm talking about, you are missing out. Yeah.
Yep. And the breweries do all of their ciders and Oktoberfests and all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah, let me see where this I forgot. I'm trying to look up where that movie, when it came out. When you get old, all those things just a year. It's already been a year. No. But let's see. Who did this? No, that's not even the right movie. Oh well. I'll look it up some other time. But either way, it was a big time producer that made that one, and I was happy when I was making that movie. And now let me see what Enzo's got here. Oh no, it doesn't let me hit the link. It just gives me the option to post it up. But it might be, I don't know. I can't follow the link right now. Well, you're on YouTube, so I can just go to YouTube and check out the comments there. We may even have more comments. But and feel free to join the link or join the conversation in here. If you're on YouTube, we're definitely seeing everybody on YouTube. I've got the chat up for X. I don't know how many people are watching on X, and I don't know how many people are watching on. Let's see, my channel. Look at the live feed. Turn off the sound so I don't have to hear myself. And go to live chat. And then click on that link. That was a long way to go for that. Yes, that is the movie. There it is. It was the UFO, and it was let's see, who made it? J.J. Abrams. So I was super excited to be a part of this because I am a fan of J.J. Abrams, and when he was doing a UFO movie, I was like, yeah, this is going to be good. And then I was not happy with it. It started off really good. It had a great segue. And then the ending I was like, no, dude, I have no idea how you went from there to it just being prosaic and you can't, there's nothing, and it's like, I can understand you saying that about specific phenomenon, but hey, Candy, welcome to the show. What's up, Ralph? So Candy and Ralph, a couple of nuclear engineers that are that work with UAPX on a regular basis. I appreciate you supporting my channel. Remember, also everybody, I know I have to say it, I know everybody hears it a million times on YouTube, but like and subscribe. And I've been told over and over again, if you don't actually engage with people and tell them to do it, then they may forget to do it. So we're not looking to make any crazy money on this. Any money that we do make on this show, once we do monetize, goes to better podcasting equipment. And then, honestly, we don't need much better. I think I just need a better camera, a nice DSLR camera, and that's about it. Maybe some better lighting. But other than that, we're not going to get real fancy with this show. This is always going to be just two dudes talking a bunch of crap about everything. And rambling. So get in on our ramble away. I want to hear it. I mean, some shows, matter of fact, I think after we do the special, we should do a show where we bring people on to talk and invite people in to actually BS with us. Some like see if we actually have any diehard fans like Enzo that wants to come in and chat. Maybe we'll even get some of the other maybe get Ben and Joe from UFO Garage and some of the other podcasters. Maybe get the that one time the girls from that one time. So in here and just get kind of go a little crazy some nights. Speaking of, I just hinted at that we're going to have a special. We are going to have a special. So the one thing I realized is that the one thing I really wanted to be with UAPX is super transparent. And then I realized how hard that is when you have real scientists analyzing data. The time that it takes for everything. And of course, when you've got great organizations that you work with, that you do things with, and then there's a little bit of a paywall when it comes to their conferences and the production of us doing updates on what we're working on and stuff like that. So I went to Matthew Shadagas, which is one of our principal scientists, and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this idea? I was doing like a 2-hour special and basically replicating the same information that we gave to the SCU and to these big scientific conferences that we go to, that we share all of what we're working on, updates since the movie Into Terror in the Sky. And then, we'll start off by just chatting at the beginning, and then we'll go into the actual slideshows and do the presentation, which is generally, I think it's about 45 minutes to an hour, give or take, depending on how many questions we have. And then that way, now that it's been enough time where it's not going to be any issues, any conflicting issues with like the SCU, great organization, by the way, please support them in any way you can. Where we can get we can pull that paywall out and just, get everybody up to speed and get everybody that same high quality update that the SCU got and other scientific conferences, because we don't tend to do a lot. We don't really do the circuit of UFO cons and stuff like that. I mean, if I'm invited to one, I would definitely go, and I'm sure Matt with you would go, and Ben would definitely go. We have no problem going to them. It's just, honestly, we just don't get invited to them anymore. So, which is fine with us because we just go to scientific conferences and work. So, speaking of work, Ben's, we're working on trying to get some new software that created by another person. Bob, who makes the Bob software?
That's a good question. The folks involved started with Sky 360 and then spun off this Bob camera control software, open source software that I've been working with now. And actually, I have the system.
Love you too, Jamie.
System right here. So I've been working with this and trying to get the software much more reliable, deterministic, rather than sifting through thousands and thousands of gigabytes of false targets or bugs and whatnot. So so far, I'm really liking the Bob software, and I haven't really dug into it. But if anyone is looking to set up a camera, point it at the sky and see what you catch, the Bob software is pretty well. It's pretty well documented. You might need a little bit of technical know-how to install it. You do need a Linux system. And then it'll interface with like
You said a dirty word, Linux.
It's the best operating system, just the best.
For when you're doing stuff like this, you're absolutely correct. But it gets people that haven't used computers or that are only familiar with Windows or Mac. You say Linux, and it's just like this alien thing. And I'll be dead honest with you. You'll find yourself, everybody's got like that old laptop that's like propping up something on their table, or maybe even propping the table up. Go grab that laptop, wipe it, and just go to YouTube and say, how do I install, Linux, and install it for the first time. Follow the prompts, and it's so easy. It works so clean. It's like you want to install a program, you just type in a command and it just installs that program. No clicks, no anything, and then it just tells you a little prompt installed. It's so beautiful.
And it's all free.
Yep, and absolutely free. And it's one of the best ways to get into using computers for research that you can. A lot of scientists actually use either MacBooks or they use some type of Unix based systems, because I know, like in the service, we ran a $1 billion weapon system off a Unix based GUI called X Windows, which dates me because nobody uses X Windows anymore, or they use the current version of it. But so it's definitely super fun, and it's a great project just to kind of mess around with. I got one laptop that I just dink around with, trying to learn the newer stuff that I just 20 years from the time that I was good at it.
Yep, staying sharp is good. But yeah, so with Bob, if anyone wants, just look for Google Bob camera control software. You'll find their GitHub repository, and it has straightforward instructions of how to install it. And then you integrate a camera, and it just looks at the video stream, and you can set the sensitivity to try to eliminate false positives, bugs and whatnot, clouds moving, and you turn down the sensitivity, and then it should detect any changes. It uses a background subtraction algorithm and records whatever it sees when it's detecting any sort of change in the field of view. So if you've got a good dark sky, get a camera, point it up,
it's
so see what happens.
So far, it's got a lot of promise, and I know the creator of it, and he's going to have to. I hope you forgive me, because I just I'll be dead honest with you. In the last 48 hours, I've only slept 2 hours. So a lot of my synapses are not firing very well right now, but at least hopefully I'm entertaining. But it's a all right, there we go. We got comments. I got the comments for no comments here either, so that's cool. But there's a lot of creativity in the world of citizen science and UAPs. You've got Sky 360, you've got UFO DAP, and you've also got this, a lot of companies now that are doing apps and just software based systems like the Bob software. You can get into this field as heavier or as light as you want, but I encourage everybody to continue to look up. I think the more people that look up, the more we're going to realize it's not very uncommon to see these things. Yes, there absolutely is a great tutorial and video for installing Bob. If you get easily confused, do it anyways. But I know a lot of times I got to watch these things like 3 or 4 times. And I'll be dead honest with you, my eyes are starting to hurt, so I gotta throw my glasses on. I'm getting old. Because there's enough distance from me to the screen where it's it's making me so you don't get to see my my beautiful brown cow eyes anymore.
Got a good reflection of your screen.
Oh yeah, see, look, now you guys you can see me looking at all the comments. But yeah, I'll go back to, since we have the most people talking to us is in YouTube, of course. But what else you got for us? Anything else you want to? What's the next thing we want to chat about?
Well, let's get back on that the media subject. We promised people that we would talk beyond UAPs, and maybe we'd get a little controversial.
You promised that.
Okay. Yes.
All right.
Sure.
Let's get to it.
All right. So, yeah, my first experience with the media, I think, was when I was like 12 years old. We were on a family trip, and we unfortunately, a person had drowned, and we found the body in a rock jetty. And then the news came, and they're interviewing my uncle. And then they interviewed us too, because I mean, we were fishing on this jetty, and we saw this leg sticking out in between rocks. And then when the articles came out, they quoted me as saying, "And my dad took us kids away so we wouldn't have to see such a sight." Now, that's just not even how I talk, and it definitely wasn't what I said. So that kind of like was an early taste of how the media might twist things a little bit.
Anytime you have to watch a cutaway, it's like so cringe, because it's like they seem to try to find the person that speaks the worst English in the entire area to interview. And it's like, I can understand interviewing people, but don't showcase somebody that may or may not understand what they're talking about, or may or not have very good English, or just so that it seems like it's some, I don't know. They do it for views and stuff like that. And it drives me up the wall.
Yes, very formulaic how they do their engagement. So then let's see. So I saw the same thing as you saw. I come from more the left leaning, I would say, and I wasn't comfortable with the media around COVID, and I actually haven't watched television. I haven't even had a television for probably 15, 20 years, probably closer to 20 years. Haven't had cable or anything like that. So I don't watch television. I got my news generally from Reddit, and I thought that was a pretty good source, because it's a accumulator, conglomerator. That was.
Oh no, it's either the most toxic wasteland you've ever been to, or it's the most rawest news you've ever gotten, and it's so hard to tell the difference between it on Reddit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I found that out the hard way. I've got like a lifetime ban on Reddit. Every time if I create a new account, it lasts for a day, and then it's like, you're permanently banned. It's like they figured out the IP or whatever, even using different email addresses. Yeah, I'm like permabanned from Reddit. And why was I permabanned from Reddit? I was permabanned because I'm Jewish. My father grew up in Israel. So I was often commenting on the Israel-Palestine conflict from an inside perspective, someone with skin in the game. And I am not a hateful person. I don't wish death and destruction on anyone. I'm gonna celebrate when their pagers blow their balls off, but I would love nothing more than to have peace with every single person in the world.
Well, you and your people have earned that right to be able to, say that.
Yeah. It's okay to rejoice when you get a bit of a win, but we'll see what happens there. So I was just making comments, long comments, factual comments, referenced comments, explaining how this narrative that is so pervasive and on online in social media now is counterfactual. The narrative around the Israeli-Palestine conflict is disastrously falsified. I saw that. I was in Israel.
Well, wait a minute. How do you even know this? I mean, you're just sitting here in the States watching the TV. How do you know that it's falsified?
Well, for one thing, when they say that, a blood libel, that Jews are genocidal, that we're trying to genocide the Palestinians, that's designed to hurt, because we've been a victim of true genocide. 6 million people killed. That's a far cry different from a war, a protracted war, a war that's going on, 70 plus years and maybe even 1,300 years. So we have a history, the Jews and the Arabs have history going back well before even Islam. Islam.
Hey, my people have 10 crusades against them too. So actually 8 against them. But that's beside the point. I wasn't a part of the crusades, and I know I don't. Yeah, but it's but what I was trying to get at is the fact that Ben, he actually put his life where other people wouldn't, to know exactly what he's talking about. What Ben decided to do, one day I get a phone call, says, "Hey, I'm not going to be at the next UAPX meeting." I'm like, "Well, okay, what's up?" "I'm going to Israel to work with the Israeli army." I'm like, "What?" "No, it's not safe over there, right?" I go, "Not, I serve my country. I'd lay my life down for any child, anybody in danger, any on American soil." But, he went that extra step. He went over there. He saw what was going on. He knows firsthand exactly what's going on there. And so he was able to actually see it from a perspective that we cannot, no matter what we do, if you have not been there, boots on the ground, just like during Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom, people are criticizing because of the civilian casualties. I hope people realize that after 9/11, you don't understand how many civilians we killed in all of those bombings in Afghanistan. We killed thousands of people. I mean, every single one of those strikes, they bring their families to these bases with them. They don't differentiate. I mean, there's always civilian casualties when you fight Muslims, because that's how they fight. Their entire family is there with them. It's a different type of culture, a different mentality. It's where, in the United States, it's hard for us to fathom how they fight, because we go off to war. Men and women that have enlisted, we remove ourselves from our family and we go. They move as a family. Or whether you want it to be true or not, or they literally use human shields.
Oh, it's true.
And if you don't believe me, take off the blinders for a couple of minutes and go do like 5 minutes of research about what's going on in any Arab war. It doesn't matter which one you pick. So, and they're all littered with tons of civilian casualties. And I don't think any civilian should ever be killed. And honestly, a lot of my PTSD is the fact that after the fact, I'm looking back at this footage of all this devastation, and and I'm seeing all these civilian casualties that I may or may not have been inadvertently the cause of. And it weighed so heavy on my soul that I honestly felt like at one point in my life that I could never be redeemed, and I was just going to go immediately to hell, because there's no way I could have committed those atrocities and still be saved. I have come full circle from that and understand that if I had that knowledge today, that I had when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, pushing the button because somebody killed, so a bunch of our people got killed in 9/11, and I don't regret you know, stopping the action for that, but I do regret every single civilian casualty that may have occurred by any weapon that we fought with during Iraqi and Enduring Freedom. And that weighs heavy on my heart and soul forever. So I can only imagine what it is for those people that are trying to go over there now. So that was long-winded for saying he knows what he's talking about because he decided to put his life on the line to go find out. So continue, Ben. Sorry.
Oh,
Rant
no.
over.
No, it's very relevant.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went over there and I volunteered with a program that embeds you with on different military bases, depending on your age, skill set, and whatnot. Non-combat volunteering effort. So that put me in contact with lots of soldiers. I was embedded with soldiers, working with soldiers, mostly logistics work, fixing bases and stuff like that. But it had been probably 20 years since I had been to Israel, and I know the Jewish people, and I don't know of anyone who is hateful or is or violent. Our culture is one of peace, hoping everyone has peace. We're not proselytizing, so it's not like we're trying to take over. We're not expansionists. No, like really, what do we want? Like we want something called tikkun olam, which is to heal the world. That is pretty central to Judaism, and I'm not a religious person. Mostly secular, but Judaism is both an ethnicity and a religion. So we have, if you're born a Jew, you're a Jew. If you convert to Christianity, you're a Christian, but ethnically, you're still a Jew. Now, if you convert to Judaism, you're a Jew, and your children are Jews, and that's how it works. So we have like this insular tribe. But while being insular, it also has a mechanism for bringing in genetic diversity. And
if you convert to Christianity, you're a bad Jew.
Well, you're no longer Jewish, but yeah.
I'll beg your pardon. There are Jews that still follow the Jewish faith, but believe that Christ is the Savior.
Yeah, and so you're not going to find
I'm not going to find any hardcore Jewish. I don't know Orthodox Jews that are going to agree with that, but I do know that there's a very strong group of people that believe that follow all the Jewish traditions and still that follow the Torah rather than the Bible, and they believe absolutely that Christ was the Savior, and that's to me that's awesome. But it's
yeah,
that's coming from a Christian standpoint.
Yeah. And to us, I mean, I can't speak for all Jews, but I can speak for probably most, and I'll say that those folks, we consider them Christians. You believe in Christ, you're a Christian. I mean, that's theological, and I love one of my absolute best friends, going back into since I was 13 years old. Someone who's literally fought for me, bled for me. We fought for each other. He's a Pakistani Muslim. So I love all people. I love all good people. So I went to Israel to make sure that things hadn't changed. I heard about it's gotten so right wing there, and the settlers are and the Hasidim are so problematic and illiberal. And my father actually comes from the Hasidic side, so I understand how insular and conservative, and there's problems in any kind of extreme orthodoxy. There's problems in any community. So I wanted to go there to make sure there hadn't been, all these things, the media headlines, saying that we're genocidal, saying that we're targeting children, saying that we're trying to ethnically cleanse Gaza. I wanted to make sure that if I'm advocating, I'm planting this flag, that I know full well what I'm standing for and what I'm fighting for. So So I went there, and I talked to just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, trying to get the inside scoop, talking to soldiers with dust on their boots. Literally, I was right outside of Gaza in Ofakim, and on a base that the guys who were patrolling the Gaza envelope were coming back in. So, they're coming in, Humvee mounted 50 cal and just, covered in dirt, and we're having lunch together. So I talked to everyone, and I did not meet a single person who said anything indicative of apathy towards civilians. So I met one fellow. He was the equivalent of Navy SEALs, Shayatet 13, I think. And he showed me a picture, and he was so proud. He said he's a sniper, and he had just gotten back from having overwatch on a humanitarian corridor. So he said, look, and he shows me this picture, from a concrete smashed out building down on just masses of people. And he said, from here, Hamas would go in, they would join the humanitarian, the masses of people that were evacuating from some areas, because Israel's the only army that actually warns the enemy before they bomb. So they warn the people. They've got a massive grid system in Gaza so that they can specifically say, this area is dangerous, get out. They'll send leaflets. They'll call every mobile phone in that area. And then
they got to be careful with those mobile phones.
Now they do. So they'll do everything to get people out of the area before they're going to go in and clear it of terrorists. So what this fellow was telling me, he was showing me this picture, and he said, from here, I can see Hamas, because what they were doing before is they would join into the masses of civilians who are moving, and then they would just open up with machine guns on them. And their hope was that the IDF would respond, would turn, and they would get the footage of IDF shooting into the crowds. IDF didn't. The IDF took so many losses because they would not shoot. Their rules of engagement there are even more strict than our military's rules of engagement.
Now, to be clear, our rules of engagement vary from place to place, but for the most part, it's only fire when fired upon, and then only if you feel like you need to fire. So when it comes down to it, you are the buck stops with you, whether you fire or not. But if you've been fired upon, which means that you could be shot before you ever get to shoot back. So that's it. That's kind of one of the crappy parts about being the good guys.
Yeah, definitely. But it's the only way you stay the good guy. So with that fellow, he was saying that from this vantage point, because Hamas kept on doing this, they would join into crowds of civilians, and then they'd open up shooting it's their own people. That really shouldn't be said. Hamas doesn't have any people other than Iran and hatred and political Islam. So they would open up on their own people and just trying to play what we call Pallywood, not Hollywood, Pallywood, because they recognized a long time ago, after they got their asses kicked in 48, when Israel became a state. No, it was not a colony. I mean, it was a British colony called Palestine that the Jews started immigrating to, and then heavily immigrated to after the Holocaust. And the Arabs there, some of them, it wasn't a state. There were nomadic tribes, there were villages, but it wasn't a country per se. There was no governance really. Those folks decided that some decided that they were going to answer the call from coming the larger Arab world to massacre the Jews and kick them out. And some said no, because the Jews treated them better than the Ottoman Turks, who had previously kind of been the upper class in the area. So a lot of Arabs just stayed put, and if they didn't fight the Jews, they're now Israeli Arabs, and they're actually some of the only Muslims who live under a fully democratic system with full rights. Everyone. I mean, you can be a Muslim Israeli, a Jewish Israeli, a Christian Israeli, an atheist Israeli, and you have the same rights. The only thing
I got a question about that. So in Israel, is it illegal to be gay?
No. So
but in the Strip, in God, the Hamas, what is their views of being gay?
Well, like Iran would say, we have no gays here, and that's because
they killed them. They killed them all.
Yes, if you're gay in in many Muslim culture, or you're marked for death. That's what is written.
Not much wiggle room with that one.
No. So
I think that's probably so. I've never had a problem with a Jew. I've honestly, with most of the Muslims I've met, which obviously end up being, like people that were working with us and things that nature, I've never had much of an issue. But where I do have an issue is I've never had any issues with any type of Muslim rules or laws, except for Shiite law, which is their ultimate law. That's their rules for living that are so Sharia. I pronounce everything wrong. I get constant emails. Hey, you say it right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm an idiot American. You have to, but anyway, zero sleep too. Sorry. But it's so irredeemable to do certain things within this law. There's no humanity in this law. It's just about strangleholding the system that they have, and this is the only way it can be. Period. End of story. There is no wiggle room. There is no room for making it better. There's no, it's like, as much as I don't like liberal policies, if they're voted in, that means the majority of the people voted them in. I've got to accept that and adjust my sensibilities to it, or not participate. Those are my two options in the United States, and it's a absolute blessing that we live here. Because you do have that option to opt out of society, and for the most part, at the current, I do. I opt out of almost everything, but it's like, I don't care what you do. If I don't agree with it, I'll tell you, but it doesn't make me think that you're a horrible person unless you're doing something horrible. If you're, doing something horrible, like giving a small child a lap dance, I'm going to think you're a horrible person.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I've got zero tolerance for hurting children in any way, shape, or capacity. So in that respect, oh well, you're just going to have to hate me. But other than that, these are all very hard topics for our society right now, and I got a feeling that I will not be surprised if this episode is taken down.
Well, we'll see about that. I mean, maybe that could be a goal of ours.
It can't be demonetized because we're not monetized, but
yes.
So might as well get it all out of our systems now. And but it's this is who we are. This is as a people. We're all different. The point I was trying to make is that, like, most of the laws of the Jewish faith, anybody could follow without hurting anybody. And all the laws for the Christians, you can abide by all of them without hurting anybody too. Matter of fact, it's the opposite of that. It's, even if you're a crappy person, we're still going to be nice to you and try to save your soul. But if you're a Orthodox Muslim, you cannot say the same thing. Yeah, and especially if you go by the strict definitions of that Sharia law.
Well, I think in Islam there is a political aspect that's just baked right into the religion, that is expansionist. I mean, Christianity was expansionist, and it gave us the West. Christianity also went through a pretty large reformation, and we
A lot
stopped
of them, actually, several reformations, and then I mean, also we have blood on our hands too. We literally have killed at certain points in history 2/3 of the world's population.
Mhm.
I mean, we almost completely massacred Muslims off the face of the planet at one point. So we are just as guilty as every sect.
Mhm.
And I absolutely understand that. So it's like, believe me, there's no one sect that has no blood on their hands.
Yeah, and getting back to kind of the media topic on it, what with Christianity, the media had portrayed things in a way that, me being a East Coast liberal elite, right outside New York City, I had a lot of fear of Christians, because media was feeding me a pretty steady
Well, I'll tell
diet
you what.
of the what's that, Gary?
I'll
Oh,
tell you what, you hippie. I love you, brother.
yeah, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. Christians are honestly being completely demonized in
Mhm.
the media right now,
Yeah,
and every Christian's a bad Christian because all we want is bad people to convert to good things. So
yeah.
that's how it
So,
is.
and what I saw was that, and the reason that I had fears around it was because I saw this looming threat towards like gay people, that, well, we're headed towards Christian nationalism. So that was my fear, and that was the boogeyman that I thought was really our most immediate threat. And then some things changed. I started working with UAPX, meeting you, Gary. Then I work with a company in Virginia. I work remotely, but I went to Virginia a few times, and I was talking to all these people who, they're like, "You're not voting for Trump?" I'm like, "What? No one's voting for Trump. We all hate Trump. Like, what are you all talking about? Like, we
No.
despise Trump." And and then I started talking to.
Oh, looks like your camera quit on you.
Can you hear me?
I can still hear you. We can still hear you.
Okay, yeah. Wait, the camera
We
should
just see.
come back. I'll cycle it.
It might have overheated.
Yeah, it could have been. But yeah, so I met with a bunch of folks who were Christian, and then and I didn't find anyone actually who was hateful towards LGBT folks. I didn't find anyone who was anti-Semitic towards me. They were actually like really supportive towards when they found out that I was Jewish. While up here in New England, you usually don't really say. There is a lot of underlying prejudice. So, and I also think that the creeping anti-Semitism that is prevalent in academia and now is being reflected in the media, I think that has a bit of influence up here, such that I was kind of reluctant to share, my background in some situations. The Christians I met kind of disavowed me of that feeling that they're that they're going to be they're pushing for laws that are going to have concentration camps for gay people or something. Because as a Jew, we're brought up to be looking out for at least I was looking out for the next Hitler, looking out for who's going to knock on your door and take you and your family away to kill you, or who's going to take your neighbor away and kill them. Because to us, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, all of humanity, we're one soul. We just don't recognize it yet. So I started seeing that that disparity between what I had been fed and what I was actually seeing with my own lying eyes, and the people I was meeting who were outside of my bubble. And yeah, I definitely was in a pretty strong bubble, even though I was on Reddit with a million sources to Reddit. It's manipulated. And then when after October 7th, the Hamas massacre, after that happened, and within days, the New York Times is a disproportionate response over the time. Are you seeing the same thing that I'm seeing? I mean, I saw
it happens. It happens with everything like that, man. Even when we were, when we were doing Iraqi freedom, and when we were doing all of those campaigns, what they were, it was always this kind of like odd, not technically false, but just not accurate versions of the news that ended up being broadcast back in the States. And when we were deployed, you get on what's called MCON a lot, which is called emissions control, which means that you're isolated. You're like in a little bubble. So when you go on these long 6-10 month deployments, you end up in this little bubble of time. Like no time passes for you. You're in the twilight zone. And then you get back, no time's passed for you and everybody else. Like there's 5 new models of phones. It's almost like you were in prison for 10 months. But and then you go back and you see these news broadcasts from when you were gone. I'm like, no, that's not what happened. I was there. That didn't happen. That's bullshit. It didn't happen like that. And then you get really mad because it's just like, oh, okay, well, this is freaking it's CNN, the liberal freaking media. What do you expect? And then you go over to Fox and they're like, they twist it the complete broad other way, and it's like, no, that's not what happened either. Stupid conservative media. These guys, can't they get their shit straight? And I really miss when I was a kid and you could just turn on the TV and it didn't matter what news station it was. It was like, that's the news.
Mm-hmm. What happened?
There's no spin. There's no conservative. There's no liberal. It's just, this is what happened. You decide. Yep. and it's just, I don't know what happened to us as a nation, because I don't know how we can let it get this way. Because I mean, even as I'm I guess what used to be a libertarian or something of that nature, where I don't really, I'm not super conservative on some subjects. I'm conservative. Some subjects I'm super liberal. It's like, what you do in your land, I don't care. You want to go? Nah, sorry. There's too many kids here, so I got to be a little bit PG. But you can go have your tempestuous lady parties in the privacy of your own home, doing whatever you want with behind closed doors. What's the problem with that?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. It doesn't affect me one bit. No, none of my children can see it. It's your business. You keep it as your business. Move on with your life. But now, for some reason, they want to parade it across every streaming channel, every TV show. It's like to the point now where it's like, I get excited about something coming out, and then I start watching it, and it's like nothing but gratuitous bullshit that I can't even watch in front of my kids. And it just drives me up the damn wall, because the media is getting worse and worse. Even when you watch the news broadcast, it's just like, who can twist this to make it the most interesting bullshit here available? Like you said, you were scared of Christians. When I can guarantee you come down here to the South, you walk into any church, doesn't matter who you are, they'll welcome you in. Now, I can't say that completely with a straight face about the northern churches, but yeah, I'll be honest. You go to an Orthodox Catholic church, that's gonna be a rough one for you. Mostly, it's a lot of sit, stand, kneel, sit, stand, kneel, sit, stand, kneel. You're a horrible person. You can't do anything without repenting, and you'll never be good. You basically, you walk out feeling 10 times worse than when you walked in. But you come down here to a Southern church, and I tell you what, you go to a Southern Baptist church, whether you agree with it or not, they'll welcome you. They'll probably feed you something. You'll eat something. or they'll invite you to eat somewhere, or and they're going to invite you in. They're going to want to know who you are, what you're about. It's going to be a positive experience for you, whether you believe in their faith or not.
Mhm.
Because most of these people that I meet down here, they're just good Christian folk. I mean, and of course, we all have our faults. We all have our experiences through life that have made us, contemptuous of people. But I keep my judgment to specific people. If growing up in, the bad section of the towns in Massachusetts, it's like we were all poor. So it's just like if Jerome, if I, came over and, I called him an a-hole, it wasn't because he was Hispanic. It's because he was an a-hole. you know, if that's just how it was. It was a socioeconomic disparity, not a who's what anything else disparity. So,
well, I think you nailed it right there. What happened? When you break people into groups and tell that group what they believe and who they should support and who's their enemy, you form that group, you can control it. And we're all humans. And many of us are Americans. But you can't just say Americans if you want to divide up and leverage the power that you have by having a group that you whisper to. What you've got to draw lines, and we draw the lines based on the most obvious thing: color of skin, religion, sexual orientation. All these things are so much lesser of a factor than, like what you said. Are you a good person? Yeah. That's really it. And because you can't say that, you can't make a generalization to say all white people are bad, all black people are good. No, because they're all freaking people. So you've got good and bad in every single group. It's obscene and absurd to draw those lines. And it's nefarious. And I don't think that it's being done in any way. I don't think there's an ignorance to the nefarious nature to it. Yeah. Are we getting shut down?
No. So somebody wrote a word in the chat that I have no idea what it means.
Let me take a look.
I see if you can figure out which word it is. It's the, and then I'm going to actually look it up because I don't know what it means. Oh, okay. It's
amalgamation.
It's like you hear it, and then I'm trying to think about it. How does this, okay, I can understand how he used it, but what does it actually mean? And I realized I didn't know what it actually meant. And then, of course, the action, process, or result of combining or uniting, and then it's like amalgamation. All right, I get it now. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't know the actual definition. Maybe just because I'm freaking too tired, but. And then I just looked at it in general. I'm like, what does that say?
That's a really good term, because that's every person has conflicting, has ideas that might not fall within one category. Like, that's why our two-party system is just kind of obscene, because it forces you to subscribe to like a whole list of often contradictory positions. Like now, if I was going to vote Democrat, which I'm not voting for Kamala, no way. When she's giving,
I mean, what do we do though? Because I mean, it's like, I'll be dead honest with you. It's like in my situation, it's like I don't like what I hear from Kamala, and I don't like what I hear from Trump. I like affording groceries, and I like inflation to lower, and I want, everything I want, unfortunately, leans one way, and it's like, you ever seen that South Park episode where they had to do the mascots? I think it was like a turd sandwich and a douchebag. It's like I feel like we're stuck in South Park, and it's like, yes. Who are you voting for, the turd sandwich or the douchebag?
Exactly.
It's like, which one's filling my tank?
Yeah.
And that's really comes down to it, because I don't think anybody on either side is completely happy. I mean, you've got your extreme on both sides, I promise you that, and those are always the loudest voices. Indeed. But unfortunately, the loudest voices are usually the minority. And I mean, most of us, we strive to take care of our families, the people that we love, the things that we do, our animals, our lives, our little bubbles. We love our little bubbles. My little bubble's awesome. I have people here that I love. I want to keep that little bubble. I don't want to pop it. I love it. It's just my little bubble right here. Don't mess with my bubble, and we're good. And unfortunately, both sides are messing with my bubble. So I'm not happy either way. I'm not going to discuss who I'm actually going to vote for because I really don't like either candidate at all. I think they're both garbage.
Agreed.
And I think that if Kamala wants to go with liberal policies and be a liberal, that's perfectly fine. But she needs to stop a lot before communism and socialism. She's such a hardcore on the socialist side that it kills me. And Trump, he just doesn't give a shit. I mean, in one aspect, I like the fact that he'd tell another country, go F off, but in the same respect, I would have rather have him be a diplomat and say, pardon us, but it would be a mistake to do that because of these things, instead of saying go F off. So he has no diplomatic ability. I mean, yeah, he's a hard ass, and yes, he will have no problem invading your country and taking everything you got. But I don't like that.
No.
I'm absolutely for the Second Amendment,
Same.
but I don't have a problem with background checks, and I don't have a problem with if somebody shows sign of mental instability, them being categorized as somebody that cannot own a firearm. But definitely, the problem with making hard pan laws for these things is that you're going to still end up having people that suffer from it. Like say, I've heard, especially from certain camps within Kamala, she's never particularly said this, but like people that support her, and especially the ones that are really strongly against gun ownership, and they said, well, all soldiers should not be allowed to have a gun, or every soldier that has PTSD should not be able to have a gun. And I say that's the most ignorant thing, one of the most ignorant things I've ever heard. I said, if a soldier comes back and they're having trouble and they have PTSD and they are mentally unstable and violent and they continuously are a problem within our social structure, absolutely deem that person no rights to firearms. But if a guy comes back with PTSD from the things that he's did, and he has a hard time coming back with, the guilt and everything from the things that had to be done during wartime, that guy is not going to be much of a problem with a weapon. That guy, most likely, when your child's in danger, he's jumping in front of a bullet for your kid. He should definitely be able to have a gun. Matter of fact, we should hire disabled veterans to stand and patrol our schools and keep our children safe. And I guarantee, if you went out and said, I want 100 volunteers tomorrow, I need 100 veterans at this location tomorrow, armed, ready to go to patrol the school because we've had a threat, you'd have 1,000 there.
And you say that, and a good friend of mine was sent home from school today because of threats to her school. And that was after they had a late start because they had threats to the school. So, yeah. And they had to close the school because they didn't have enough police to be able to adequately secure the schools. So that sounds like I think
I'm not for defunding the police in any way, shape, or form. I think that that's the worst thing that could happen. All you have to do is look downtown Oakland.
Look at California. Yes.
I mean, no, there's still some spots in California. I got some friends that are in California, and I tell you what, they're hating the taxes. They're still in, like in San Diego. San Diego hasn't gotten completely trashed out. I mean, of course, you go down towards the border, yeah, it's garbage, but it always has been, even back 25 plus years when I lived there, but honestly, the California I lived in no longer exists, and I miss it because as a conservative person, I lived in a gay neighborhood because the rent was low and my neighbors were polite. So it was, and that was okay. There was no issues until you got closer to the border, and then the border crime. I mean, just doesn't matter what border you're talking about in any country, in any world. You go to a border wherever there's, a third world country or a second world country butted up next to a higher world country, there's going to be crime at that border. But
Indeed.
all right. Hey, thanks, Lugnut, for coming by, bud. I appreciate all the support. And if you came here wanting to talk just UAPs, just remember, yes, we are going to be heavy into UAPs from a lot of times, but we also are going to talk politics. We're going to talk religion. Ben over here is a dirty liberal, and I'm a wonderful shining conservative. But no, we have different opinions on a lot of things, but we come to eye about being human, and the human condition is real, and we are all there. And once we realize that nothing can really separate us from our own freedom and our personal thought processes. So
that's it. Every human deserves dignity and their own agency, and that's
what I like to see. Dude's got to go. He's got to get his kid in the bath. That's the type that's the type of people. I'm happy that person's watching this show. I hope he's a good person, because if he does something horrible, I'm gonna feel real bad now. But the type of thing I like to see, because constantly, I tell you what, ask Ben, ask any of the guys in UPX. I don't know how many times I've canceled a meeting because I have a family issue, or I got like a car full of kids and all I hear is kids and turn signals because I'm doing the meeting in my car because I had to run a bunch of kids home or do something. And I'll always, if you say kid, you're already excused in my book.
As it should be.
All right. So we're at an hour and 26 minutes. Want to round it out at an hour 30, or you want to continue to go for 2?
Let's round it out at 1:30. We've probably given folks a good taste of some controversial opinions. If anyone has questions, especially around the Israel-Palestine conflict, hit me up on X. Ask questions. It's the disservice that the media is doing is, I can only compare it to the 1930s run up to the Holocaust. They are painting a narrative that is so far from fact, and they are painting it through such insidious means of omission, focusing on one thing. Yeah, kids die in war. It's terrible, but let's talk about why we're at war, not nitpick every single battle, every single airstrike. Especially when you've got an enemy, and Gary talked about this, just go on memory, Middle East Media Research Institute. What they do is they translate largely Arabic programming into English and subtitle it in English. And they'll do it for Arabic. You go look at what's happening in Dearborn at the rallies that are either being conducted in Arabic or even in English. But look at the Palestinian TV and look how they teach their children. These are people who don't want to live and let live. And I'm not saying for all Palestinians. And I have love for any Palestinian who wants to live in peace. I have love for them, and all I want is for them to be safe and for us to eventually find peace. But go and look at what these people teach their children. And they don't want to live and let live. They don't just want to have their land and live in it peacefully. No, it's not a land struggle. The Palestinians could have had their own state multiple times in the past, and they don't want it, because what they want is the eradication of the Jews from the area. And you don't have to believe me. You can just go and read the charters of Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. That they'll tell you what they want, and they'll also tell you what they want to do with the West. Look at what's happening in the UK. We need to be clear-eyed, and we need honest reporting around these things, or we're going to have more violence, and it's going to be the innocent people who get the end of that violence, because it's not with basis. So that's what I would leave you with. And please ask me any questions on X, anything. I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I dragged Ben over here to or onto X, because we also, from time to time, we'll probably hop on there and start doing, maybe I think about once a month. You want to do it? Just do it. Sure. We'll go in and do a what are they calling it? I don't remember.
I don't either.
I need some sleep.
Yeah.
A space. We'll do it. We'll do at least once a month. We'll do a space. And that way we can get in there and we can talk about all kinds of stuff. We'll call it Space Oddities.
Sounds good.
But it's been great talking with you, and it's been great to talk with all of you that have that showed up to hear us rant and rave about what we find fascinating, intriguing, and wonderful, or not so wonderful, depending on our subjects. And we're here to prove that a liberal and a conservative can actually have a good conversation. So
who you calling?
We're all human. we're all human. Start thinking about the information that you're consuming, whether you're liberal or conservative. Take the time to really look into what you're basing your entire belief system around. And all of a sudden, when you start finding holes in your favorite person and what he's trying to peddle, yeah, start thinking for yourself. All right. With that, I bid everybody farewell. Have a good night and God bless.
Good night, all. Good night, Gary.